are now perfect. Okay, so welcome everyone. It is great to see you. This is an informal check-in, and I know that you're all busy doing your audit. I hope that it is a fairly straightforward time, since I know that many of the things that we would normally have expenses for, we haven't had as much this year just because of COVID. So this first semester, may or may not be a lot going on, but we just want to answer any questions that you have. Again, I'm Sharice Moore, I'm the council auditor, and I am able to do my best to answer questions, but I'm here with our amazing council president, Aaron Hester, who has years and years of experience with everything PTA. And do you have questions? We're recording, and so we can go back to these. But how's it going? What questions do you have? I'll pause. Kimberly.
Hi. So I am on the opposite spectrum of Aaron. I have zero experience. This is my first time on PTA, and I am unclear about something. So maybe if you can clarify. So on the checklist of what we need for the audit, it includes the checkbook register and a ledger. But when I asked our treasurer, she said that we don't use checkbook register. We use something called PT Easy. So do I need to have access to that to check, or is that just something that we just bypass? And same thing with the ledger. We don't have a ledger. So
my treasurer prints that out for me from PT Easy, and I believe that's part of the role of the treasurer in getting your documents ready. They're supposed to give you everything on that checklist so that you can just go through it and look through the binder, look through the folders and say, I have this, I have this, I have this, and you can just check, check, check. So you shouldn't, your auditor, you're looking at it after they've given you everything. You're not digging for everything that you're supposed to have on that checklist. They're supposed to provide that. But Aaron, if I'm off on that, please.
You're not. There's a couple of things in my PTZ they can print. They can print a transaction list, I think, or it's called the check register. The one thing I will say on that checklist, one thing that I wish state would change personally between you guys and me, is that to me, a checkbook register and a ledger is kind of the same thing, especially today. We don't tend to have both. If we're using my PTZ, we have everything in my PTZ. We don't have a separate checkbook, register. So as long as you have one of those things, but I will tell you, having that is going to be a huge help in the audit process, because it's going to give you everything that they've recorded, because you want to make sure that they're recording everything that's going through. So it's going to show you what they recorded, and then you can use that to check off your payment authorizations and all the things that you're looking at. So you want to ask them, you can just go back to the treasurer and say, hey, in my PTZ, can you please print me, the check register from, July 1 to December 31st. And they can even download it in PDF and email it to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be printed. It can just be sent directly to you. Okay. But yeah, you're right, Sharice. There is a ledger that we.
Yes, and that's their responsibility piece of it. So and a part of this is, I know the treasurers in many cases are new too, and so they're figuring out what to do and getting ready for the audit. So it's okay. We'll get it, and now that you can guide them to get it so that they'll know next time.
Okay, so hi, I'm Sarah. Yeah, Sarah Goshal from Bridgeport Elementary. I'm a new auditor as well. And yeah, I thought, that the checkbook register and stuff, we use QuickBooks Online. And is that what I look at, or or PT Easy? I didn't even know about that till now. That's the thing they're supposed to give me to look at the checkbook?
So if they're using QuickBooks, they can run a similar report that you can use.
Mhm.
So
Oh, okay.
it's the same kind of report. It's just
Uh-huh.
that PT Easy is easy to use and lots of, people have access to it. So it's easy to use. So that's one that I mean, I can't make recommendations, but if I could, I probably would recommend PT Easy. But QuickBooks has similar reports and you can have them run you a checkbook register report or a ledger report.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Sarah, since they use QuickBooks, they're not going to be using my PTEZ for their financials. So
Oh,
it's only those units. We use my PTEZ for all our upload documenting and our
Uh-huh.
board rosters. Some use it for their financial accounting as well. But you guys use QuickBooks, and I'm really familiar with Bridgeport. I've done a lot of work with you guys as far as training. I trained
Okay.
Shima, and Shima's on our council now. I've trained a lot of you guys over the years. So Sharice is a good source to reach out to. Feel free to reach out to me as well. We can help you with that. But yes, there is a statement that they can just print out a transaction list from QuickBooks.
Okay. Okay. I'll ask that. Okay, right.
Yep.
And I have a few more questions though. Should I do it
Yes,
now or
let's
as?
keep going. Keep going.
Okay. So while I was doing that, okay, so I'm looking at all the payment authorization form, and on that they have something called cost of doing business, which I went back to look at the bylaws and the standing rules. I really didn't see a thing specified that there is cost of doing business. Why I'm asking that those expenses doesn't seem to have been approved in the different board meetings or the association meeting. They have been written as cost of doing business. Is that something? Is it? I mean, I don't know. Is it something
So,
that's? Yeah.
right.
Go ahead.
So in some cases, once your unit passes their budget and approves their budget,
Okay.
there are some items there that are cost of doing business items, but they're supposed to open up the budget line items for any of the expenses during a meeting and have those approved. So your minutes should show that, even if they, sometimes they miss marking the date on the payment authorization form that they approved it, but you will see it in the minutes. And if they've taken really good detailed minutes, you'll be able to go back and see that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So if
Sarah,
They
one
might
other.
miss it though.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
that's something you write up for them to make sure that they cover that in all the future ones.
I was
Okay.
just going to ask, have you looked at their budget?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
actually sorry. Just wanted to say that Jennifer Stoll is my part of the audit subcommittee. Actually, she's the one who is helping me just
Okay.
because we're new.
Okay.
And sorry, go ahead.
Is there a budget line that says cost of doing business?
I did. Yeah, there is a budget line, cost of doing
Okay.
business. Okay.
That's all I wanted
Sorry.
to check. Yeah.
Okay. But is that, so, but those ones still need to be approved, as Cherie said. I mean,
See, that's where this gets a little wonky. I don't like that term, cost of doing business. Personally, I think it should be more specific. That's too broad for me. And that's something that we can train with your unit. It should be like, if cost of doing business is, stamps, then it should be postage. It should be more specific. If it's, office supplies and then they do office supplies and they list, they don't have to approve every single tiny expenditure, but that budget line does need to be opened. If, they needed to pay, like for council, for example, we have a PO box. That is a cost of us doing business, as we keep that PO box, but we still approve that PO box cost. Now,
okay.
I'm not going to approve every stamp that I use, but I might say, I need, $20 in postage. You know what I mean?
Right.
The little things don't necessarily have to be approved down to the penny, but we still need to be accountable in that we just can't have this budget line open and we're just willy-nilly, buying stuff out of it. So there should be some conversation as to what that is being used for. Now, is it like a big part of the budget? Like how much is that line for?
The line was about $750.
Well, that's a good portion. I mean, I know you guys are, you guys tend to bring a little bit more in, but 750 is still a good chunk. So I would just make a recommendation, if you're gonna make recommendations, that they need to relabel what the cost of doing business is. It's too broad. And other than that, like I said, we can work with you guys as a unit on that sort of stuff, but as long as it's in there, at least it's a budget line, at least. It just needs to make sure it's being, at least the line is open to spend, is what I'm trying to say. So
Okay.
Okay.
Sure, thank you. And if I have any question, can I reach out to you or Cherise after this? Because I'm still going over this stuff.
Absolutely.
And
I'm
Yeah,
going to,
and if you reach out to me, you can CC Cherise. If not, I always CC my, council leaders, and so we'll both be on the same page.
Okay.
Okay.
And
my
thank
email
you.
in the chat now.
Oh, okay, that'll be appreciated. And I do have a question. When I'm finishing up, there is that for the audit report, that was actually Jennifer's question too. At what point does it become right? We have examined the financial records of the treasurer, we are saying, and find them correct and substantially correct and partially correct. So at what point does it become from substantially being partially correct?
So
She's asking that question.
yes. So my guidance on that, and we did a little bit of this in the initial auditor training. If it's something that, if they miss one signature on a check that's supposed to have two signatures, I'm not going to hold them up for that and say it's substantially correct. But if it's something where over and over and over, it's the same repeated trend, then it becomes something that I want to make sure that they look at. And I'm going to change my recommendation from correct to substantially correct, and then likely have what I used to have is a little one-page memo that would have those things that were very, errors not errors, but things that needed to be looked at more closely so that we wouldn't repeat the same bad habit. I would mark those down.
Okay.
Say this happened 4 times, so that's why I'm bringing it to your attention. But if it's a onesie twosie, I don't want to ding anyone for a onesie twosie, and I would just say, hey, like even in my own unit right now, or in my own council right now, it's something simple that I have, and I know we have it. And so I printed it out and added it to it. But, I just want to say, hey, you gave me this without such and such, but I'm not going to mark that down or ding it. So
Yeah.
Okay.
We use recommendations, I think is this word Teresa's looking for, instead of things to correct, just, recommendations on ways to improve for next time.
Okay, so I can still put recommendations and still say it correct. Can I do that?
You can.
You can.
You can. If all the numbers add up, everything looks good, but there's just a few little things, you can do correct with recommendations. It's where we start to see a trend, like Cherise said, you start to see a trend of things that, isn't being done. That's when we start, going down that list. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay. So now I think.
Go ahead. I see Kimberly will come to you. I see you, but I think Sarah had another question, and then I see Selva's question. We'll answer that too.
Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, I'm looking at the income. On the income, which is mainly membership, but there is direct donation as well. So the membership and the direct donations have to go to 2 different places, correct? I mean, 2 different line items. I mean, in the treasurer's report. So we are having problem with the membership is being membership plus donation. Is that something? I don't know. I cannot explain very well. I'm sorry.
So you're saying like for the, through Totem or something when they
Yeah.
when they sign up, sometimes they round up to do a donation, and that's coming in as the total income that you're having. It's membership and the donation, and
All the direct donation has been, yeah, is
It's
showing
all-
as total. Yeah.
so that's one of the reasons that on your checklist, you separate out the membership number so that you know, even if, because in totem it is coming in together sometimes, so that you know what amount of that is actually income due direct to membership.
Okay.
And
Okay. So
that is based on your, how much your bylaws say your membership is bringing in.
okay. Okay. So
And Aaron, I see answered Selva's question.
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Kimberly?
What you were talking about, the checks, were we supposed to ask for the checks that already processed to verify signatures and things like that? Because I've never seen a check. So I wouldn't know if, protocol is being followed or not.
So your bank statements should be showing the copies of the checks and the statements, and you can see that there. And I have you'll have your checkbook from the unit with you. Again, your bank statements. I'm looking at mine now just to verify as we're looking through, but that's where I see all of the checks that have actually come through is on the bank statements.
Okay, so I don't see, for our bank statements, I don't see that. And I certainly don't have our check register. So is that
Kimberly,
okay?
some banks don't automatically do the check imaging. You have to actually request it. And we try to tell our units that should be part of your request, because we need to verify through the audit that, checks are being signed by two people. And that's the only way we do that, to that check imaging. Some banks will charge a nominal fee. We always say that's, a necessary expense. However, sometimes the banks will waive the fee if you ask. Depending on the bank too, because I know that I've used banks in the past where I could go into, and it's a little more work, but I mean, as a treasurer, I could go into the online banking and I could print the image of the checks right then and there. They didn't print onto our statement, but I printed them for each PIF. Again, pain in the butt, but I did that for my auditor because I knew they needed to see that. So I would make the recommendation for this time. For the next audit, we need to see those canceled checks. And then they'll probably ask, well, we don't get them. We need to make steps to make sure we do get them. And for this one, just move forward without them. Don't waste your time trying to track them down from somebody. But for the next one, definitely make that recommendation of, we need those canceled checks.
Okay,
So we can
I'll definitely
verify.
put that in.
Yeah.
And then I had one more question on, so the treasurer gave us the box, the treasurer box, but and they were great about including a lot of things in there, but for say receipts, I don't see any receipts at all. So I'm going by just minutes, what was in the budget, and then through bank statements. Do I need to do anything else more than that?
So just so that I'm clear on the question, I'm not familiar with the treasurer's box, but I know our treasurers all collect things differently. So you should have the payment authorization forms, and whenever checks were written, there should be a receipt or some type of documentation or email or some type of evidence that that check was written for an actual expense that was paid or will be paid. So
I will look through my box again to make sure that there's something, but I only see, I think it's just the authorization paperwork, but nothing along with it. It's just a single page.
Okay.
And there should be, and that would be a definite alert for me.
Finding. Mhm.
There has to be proof as to what, yeah. So if you do see those payment authorization forms, but there are no receipts, that's a recommendation. And I probably personally would not mark the audit correct at that point. Because that's a
That's
big
key.
part of confirming what we're paying for, are those receipts or invoices.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
so I could be wrong. This could be
Yeah.
error on my part.
that's okay.
Because I don't know what I'm looking for. So I will go through the box, obviously, much more carefully to make
Mhm.
sure that it isn't somewhere else
Yeah.
on that. And I had,
Oh, hopefully
and
it's there. Yeah.
I hope so. Lastly, I'm having a difficult time with the balances. So the balance that the last audit ended with, and the balance that the treasurer's report and the checking statements, and then the three balances that are supposed to match up. I've got three different numbers and I don't know what to do.
Okay. Can I answer this, Therese?
Yes.
You want to? Okay.
Yeah.
How are you getting your numbers? This is going to be my first question to you, because this is a common mistake we all make, including myself.
Okay, so the first number on the balance on hand as of the last audit, I
Mhm.
used the number from
Yep.
that number.
Mhm.
And then the bank statement balance as of July 1st. So July 1st, the bank statement that we get from Union Bank says banks the balance on July 1st and then the balance on July 30th. And it gives you the two different balances. And then the ending balance will always be the first balance of the next statement on the
Right.
first.
Right.
So
But
I'm using the July 1st.
how are you getting, so on, okay, so on let's say we have the audit report right now. You're getting ready to fill out your audit report. And it starts at that beginning balance from last audit. And then it's going to ask you what your total receipts are, which is all the income that has come in. How are you getting that number? That same way?
The total receipts.
Because I'll get to why you're mistaken. I just want to get you to, I want to see how you're doing things first.
The total receipts since last audit.
Yeah.
Wait.
So this is how we do it. We start with that last audit amount. Then we're going to add up the total receipts. This is where the ledger comes into play, because if we go just off the bank statement, it will throw us off, and I'll tell you why in a second. But with that ledger, we could add up every deposit that was made and get a total for our total receipts. Then we go through and we add up every check that was written and every bank fee. That's all our disbursements. Everything that went back out as our disbursements. We take those numbers and we should end up with where our ledger is, not where the bank statement is, because if there are outstanding checks, the bank statement is never going to match where our ledger is. Where were there outstanding checks from the last audit on the last audit report?
There
Okay.
were, but when I did the math, it still didn't match up.
So
So
here's why the ledger comes in handy. And I made this mistake when I was helping another auditor recently, because I wasn't going off, I didn't have a ledger to go off. We were going off the bank statements. And there were quite a few checks from the last audit that had not cleared. So we were looking through those. Even I've done audits for years. I've been on many levels as an auditor. Of course, it's been a little while, so I was a little rusty. I completely forgot that I was adding back in those checks that were already accounted for from the last audit. That was where I was completely thrown off, because when you end your audit with that balance from the last audit, those outstanding checks are accounted for. So when I'm just going into the bank statement, if those checks are cleared, it's like I'm putting them right back in again. Okay. So by looking at the ledger, I'm not seeing those outstanding checks anymore. I just want to make sure they cleared the bank so they're not carrying over to the next audit, because that will really screw us up. But that's it. And that's one of the first mistakes we make, is that we accidentally count those outstanding checks back in with the stuff that we're looking at. But what you want to do, once you get that ledger, I'm going to, you know, have you wait and get that ledger from the treasurer. Add up all the income that's come in from that ledger. Add up all the disbursements that went back out. Plug those numbers into your audit report, and then your ending balance for that, if you do the math the way it says to, should equal what it is on the bottom part, which would be the ending balance of the bank statement as of December 31st, minus any current outstanding checks, and they should match. If they don't, then come back to us. Okay. But going just on the bank statements is not going to give you the number you need. I'll tell you that right
Okay.
now.
That's all
Yeah.
I have, since we don't have a
Yeah.
ledger and I don't have that, that
It's-
check register. So I need to get so we either need to keep a ledger or I need to get a printout of the check register, correct?
You just need to get a printout so that you have it and you can do it. I mean, I have rebuilt ledgers before for units that handed me next to nothing, and I did it off bank statements. But even in that sense, I don't know if there's outstanding checks by just looking at the bank statement. You know what I mean? So we really need that ledger from the treasurer, you know, and again, it can be emailed to you. We just need that so that you can officially, you know, finish the audit and have the numbers you need.
Okay,
And
thank
that's
you.
the same reconciliation that the treasurer is doing every month when they
Yeah.
do the bank statement and then they run their reconciliation report. So
Yep.
you're now doing this for the whole first semester.
Exactly.
So they should have them because they're having to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Good question. And I've made that mistake too. So very good question.
Can you repeat what you just said, that last statement? I'm taking notes and you're talking so fast and I'm writing kind of slow.
Oh, we are recording it too.
Oh, okay, yeah, that will be good.
Yeah. So did you want me to still repeat or?
Just that last statement. The treasurer, what do they do every month again?
They're doing their reconciliation report against the bank statement to reconcile. Every month they're doing that. And that's what you're doing too. So that's this audit report. If you look at it, the top half is based on your ledger. And I'm sorry, I have free Zoom. I'm sorry. The bottom half is based on what's happening with your bank statement and checks that are still uncleared.
Okay.
Sheree says, I think Rachel's in the Zoom room. Is she in the waiting
Oh,
room?
I see. Oh, sorry. I'm just seeing her.
Thank you.
And it's due to council. It needs to be submitted by February the 15th. And you submit it in PT Easy. Hi, Rachel. Sorry.
Okay.
Text me next time. Say I'm in the waiting room.
Sharice, Erin.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Darby over at VV.
Hi.
And you guys were wonderful in helping me out this last, couple of years. I know we've been trying to fix things and tighten things up. So I just want to give you a shout out to say thank you, and everybody just truly call you guys because they've been more than helpful. Is there a way, and I know we're like short on time here, is there a way for you to show the audit report, just like you're talking about how to gather those numbers to, I don't know, like to give a sample
I
to
can.
everyone, so we can like look at, because what I was normally doing was going back to old audits to see, okay, how did you get that number? Okay, I would see it and I knew the steps to take until I ran into my big fumble of things, and then you guys helped out. I know that would help me, as I keep tightening things up here. I don't know if that's possible or not. I know you guys are busy as heck.
It is. I would just need,
Possible.
Sharice, you might have to make me
Yeah,
auditor.
You host.
Yeah, host, auditor. What am I saying?
And I think it still will record though. So it's still recording. You're host now.
Okay. Hold on. I'm going to pull up an audit report real quick.
And I was on my PT Easy. That's the place where you can go and see reports from years past for your units too.
Uh-huh.
That's where I would go like right now to look at our last audit report for council.
Okay, so I have one somewhere that's filled out, but just because I don't know where it's at. This is obviously what the audit report looks like if you guys have not seen it before. All this top information you can get from the previous audit. If you don't for some reason have that previous audit report, you should, because that's going to make everything easier. Few things though that have changed, and this is confusing a lot of people, is this total membership and e-membership. The e-membership is our totem. So you're gonna do any totem up till December 31st is gonna go part of e-membership. Total memberships yield to date, that includes your manual memberships, your paper and check. So you're gonna take that e-membership plus your traditional, is the way I read that, and get your total membership for those 6 months. But when I was talking about how we go about, you know, balancing this thing, the balance on hands of the last audit is going to go right in this area. Okay. And this is where I was talking about receipts, total, all the income that's come in, every deposit that's come in is going to go as part of the receipts. Those two lines get added. And then for your total disbursements, that's every expense that went out, checking or checks that went out, payable, bank fees, anything like that. It's going to be part of your disbursements. And then it'll give you, once you do the math, a balance in hand. That balance in hand should match the reconciliation below, where you take the bank statement amount as of December 31st. Hopefully there are no deposits outstanding. If I have seen this in rare occasions where they recorded a deposit, but didn't actually take the deposit. Hopefully that's not going to happen to any of you guys. I don't like to see that. It's bad practice. We should be taking the deposit and then recording it. So hopefully there will not be any deposits outstanding where you see it in their ledger, but it's not in the bank account. Okay. If that does happen for whatever reason, it should be a recommendation that that should have been deposited before the end of the year. Uncleared checks, this is where you're going to list your uncleared checks. It's just the check number and the amount. You're going to add all those uncleared checks up. So if you had, you know, $5 here and $10 here, $15 your uncleared checks, and then you do the math, you know, subtracting. And again, this line, oops, and that line should balance. If it doesn't, then something's off the math somewhere. It's usually, a lot of times it's a math thing. But going back to what I was saying earlier, these unclear checks, a lot of times we aren't thinking, and when we go do the new audit, we accidentally add them back in. So that's a mistake we make often. But is there any questions as to kind of how to fill this form out? At the bottom, you know, you're going to give your recommendation that, you know, council PTA, the auditor council PTA finds the books, you know, correct or substantially correct. And then it's signed by you and your committee. Okay.
And remember, you do this, you should do this, you should have at least 2 accounts that you're doing this for. So your primary account, and then I know sometimes there's a savings or a transfer account that units have too.
Yeah. Some units don't, but if you do have more than one banking account, if your unit has a savings account or a secondary account, you know, if you guys take a lot of PayPal or other types of payment methods, there needs to be an audit for each account that you guys have open. Okay. So that's at the audit report. This is kind of the last step you're going to do after you check everything. You're going to start entering the numbers in and see if you balance. Okay.
Can I ask you a question, what you just said? So I see in our paperwork that we have deposits and we have transactions from Square, but I don't see any Square like statements or anything like that. Should that be included in there?
Do you know where the Square is going into? Is it going into the primary account by chance? You would be able to see in the bank statements. So it's going into the main checking account. Okay. That first of all is not supposed to happen. That's not your doing. Anytime we have Square or any type PayPal, we're supposed to have a secondary checking account. It protects our main account so that people don't have access to it, online. Maybe just make that note to them. However, ideally, yes, there should be a printout from Square. Will you get it? I don't know. You're gonna, you really want that ledger. And then if you can ask them for the register, the report from Square, but Square, because I use Square for another nonprofit group, it is not that user friendly, guys. It takes me, who's pretty, savvy, to like go through all these different, like I have to find the report I'm looking for. Every time I think I know which report it is, it's not. So it may not be so easy to pull up. I think as long as you're seeing it on the bank account or on the bank statements, you're going to be okay. I want you to worry about the checks written and that sort of thing, because all that Square, it's going to be income. Now, if you see stuff going out to Square where they're paying with Square, then I want to start seeing some paperwork on it, but usually we're using it for income, where we're providing something and people are paying us through that, through that.
So
That
the only
site.
thing that I see, it's, I think what I saw in the minutes or in other paperwork, it was
Sure.
labeled as Square fee.
Okay, yeah, because that means that they are eating the fee, the PTA is eating the fee and not charging the customer. And that's, if the PTA has it set up that way and they're in agreement with that, that's fine. That would be the only outgoing would be the fee, and that's okay at that point. But like I say, ideally, yes, we should have a report. Is it that easy to get? No. So,
And there's-
don't
like
stress
Aaron
it.
was saying, there should be the 2 accounts ideally if you do have a PayPal or a Square account, some other account. We're going to be cutting off less than a minute. So what I'm going to do is ask that you email any follow-up questions that you have, and this will be posted on the council website. But if there are other questions that you have, since my free Zoom is cutting off soon, we will get those answers back to you. We have this full group's